We are going to go ahead and get started today. Now, we get really excited about this, I think, as we looked forward to planning this talk, this workshop. It can be a very sensitive workshop, but it also can be a very powerful workshop for a lot of people. And I think as we were planning this, I got to hear Sami's heart, Sami's passion for this, and even her story. And it was just too perfect to not bring in. I think it will be a disservice if we don't let you hear her story and her knowledge, her wisdom, her experience. And so we kind of recoursed our original plan and modified that to be able to bring that in. We know that the topic of weight, once again, whether you're underweight or overweight or just want to maintain your weight, can be very, very sensitive, very, very hard to talk about, to process, to really seek out maybe the best mindset on that. And I think a lot of you can give me a thumbs up, would you say that weight is a big issue in our country, right? It is not usually, right? That's not usually a surprise, right? And the statistics show this, right? So we know that 70%, 7 out of 10 Americans are overweight or obese, right? We know that that is a massive problem for our country as a whole, and this has continued to rise, and we'll get into more of that later on, but we see this continue to go up. We even know kids 6 to 11, right? 6 to 11, they are usually what we see right now, and this was just recent statistics, but 6 to 11 years old, 18%, almost 20% of those kids are obese in America. We know then 12, so age 12 to 19, that roughly 21% of them are obese as well too. So this is a big issue, not just for us as adults, 20 and older. This is definitely affecting our younger generation, and we know, and Sami shared this information, this statistic with me, and I just thought it was powerful. I thought that it just hit home for me, but she was saying that 80% of 5 to 9-year-olds, think about the 5-year-old that you know, but 80% of them think that they are fat, right? So we're gonna get into a lot more of the mental effect of this issue is playing on our culture. But we know that even when we talk about overweight and obesity, which is definitely the more common one, right? 70% of Americans struggle with that. We can see on the flip side that every 62 minutes, once an hour, there's someone dying from an eating disorder. We know we can get into lots of different eating disorders, ones that we're not eating enough and ones that we are maybe eating too much, but at the end of the day, it comes down to malnutrition, and we're gonna be able to get to that today. We understand that the factors around weight is complex, right? There's not just a one size fits all. I mean, otherwise every fad diet would work out there, right? And every pill that you could take out there would work. It is complex. It is multiple pieces and multiple gears working together. And that's what we want to be able to address today. And just to give you guys maybe a perspective, this is not only for you, but it's for your families. It's for the generations below us and that we are raising as well in this country. Because we know right now that if a child is raised and is in a household with one parent who's obese, that child has a 50% chance of becoming obese themselves as well too. If 2 parents are obese, then that child has an 80% chance of struggling with overweight or obesity later in their life as well too. So yes, maybe there is a component of genetics, and we're going to talk about that, but there are so many other factors, and that's what we want to be able to cover today. There are things that we can't control. As the coronavirus has ensued, as these riots have ensued, as our country and the world ultimately over the last couple of months has noticed that there's a lot of things out of our control. So what we need to focus on are the things that are in our control. And so we get really excited about that because when it comes to the topic of obesity, overweight, malnutrition, even underweight, and different diseases or just even eating disorders, we know that if someone, right, is unhealthy in their nutrition, their exercise, and their diet, and at an unhealthy body weight, it increases their risk for cancer, for heart disease, for stroke, which those 3 are the top killers here in America. And so we know that this is a piece, right? One piece to the puzzle in regards to our overall health, but it is an important piece and one that we need to address in order to make sure that all of us can live to our God-given potential, to the way that we were designed, and be at our optimal health or our healthy selves. And so that is going to be what we're going to get into. And I have Sami here now, and I can be able to expand her picture here. But we know that as we talked about this, her insight, I think, is going to be very helpful for you. So I'm excited to bring Sami here, our chiropractic assistant. But Sami, can you share a little bit, give us a little background of why you're passionate about this, why, just maybe your story behind this. So just share with our patients and the people that are joining us today on why this is such a big passion of yours.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I am just so excited, and thank you, Dr. Jake, for having me share my story. I totally believe that sometimes people can go through things and then they can share it and help so many other people out of a struggle that they've been in for a long time. So I'll go ahead and share some of my story. I wrote down some bullet points that I wanted to make sure I touched on. So hopefully this helps you guys. That is my whole goal in sharing here. I'd love to answer any questions you have if you come in the office. I'm totally open to that. But let me go ahead and jump right into my story. So I really wanted to come on here. This is such a passion of mine because from ages 15 to 22, I had a very severe eating disorder. First, I had eating disorder not otherwise specified. They call it EDNOS. And then for the second half of my eating disorder journey, I went into anorexia. So I was in and out of treatment from the lowest level of care, which is just seeing a therapist, all the way up to residential care, where I was in a locked facility for 24 hours, just trying to get nutrients into my body. And so in that kind of time, I really believed that my purpose was for my body to look good for others. And so I tried really, really hard to look a certain way because that's what society tells us we need to look like. And so I just kept getting fed those lies from different experiences. So yeah, and in that journey, I, over a course of like 2-3 months in college and high school, about 45 pounds in a couple of those months, which is not good. It's not necessarily really good to drop weight really fast, especially when you don't really need to. But at the time, I really did believe that I was really overweight and really obese. So yeah. And then I almost died from my eating disorder in 2016. I actually went into a doctor's office at that time, and they said that, Sami, if you don't change your ways, you're going to die by your next birthday, which was 2 months away. And at the time, I didn't really care about that because I was skinny. And that's what I think the world really highlights is super important for us to be as thin as possible, as fit as possible. And so I didn't really care because I was at the spot that I was getting praised in and culture was telling me that I was really good, but that wasn't healthy for my body. That wasn't where my body needed to be at in that period of life, or really any period of life. I was way too tiny and malnourished. And I was actually hurting my body and its organs, which is not good. But it wasn't until I had a big heart change and the Lord really brought me out of that. Very reluctantly, I went into treatment, and very reluctantly did I start to nourish my body back. But I can say that that has been, I mean, truly a lifesaver. And I couldn't have done that on my own without supportive parents, and really diving into what does my mind tell me and what does a healthy mindset really look like. Which shifted. And after, that 5 years of treatment and then reluctantly going through 3 different wardrobe sizes, just putting on the weight, it slowly started to nourish my unhealthy brain, which was very starved, and my not so healthy body. And now 2 years later, I can fully say that I'm almost at that full recovery stage where I can exercise with not a mindset of destruction, and I can eat something that can excite me and my taste buds. And it's not all just what is the lowest possible calorie amount possible that I can eat. So I'm still learning for sure. I still have bad days just like everybody else of I don't like my body, and sometimes I'm super confident, and I think we all have those days. But I can really say that I'm the happiest and most content that I've been, because I've gotten to use that story to really share with just so many women and children. I got to speak about it at a camp conference that was, about 150 women, and just hearing stories of, oh, my child just told me after this that she's been struggling with this for years, or my son came up to me and said that he's been struggling, because it's not just girls who struggle with weight and body image. It's very much can be like a man's issue too. It doesn't discriminate. So my passion really came from, I want to help people get out of this thought process of disordered eating And I don't want them to believe that they have to starve themselves in order to be the person they were made to be, because you guys are already the people that you're made to be. It's just, how can we support your body now? Because it's just trying to keep you alive. So how can we support your body to be the healthiest and strongest it can be, so you can go out there and be what your kids or your friends or your family needs you to be? And how can you just support yourself and start loving yourself and being on your own kind of self-love journey too? So that's a really high level scale of my story, but I know that with 30 million people suffering with disordered eating or an eating disorder, it's just super important to talk about. So
absolutely. Thank you, Sami, for sharing that. And I think as we hear that, I think a lot of people can relate to different aspects or different emotions and feelings to that story. Now, would you say, because this is so complicated, would you say that the hurdles that you experienced, the number one hurdle, would you say it was lack of like knowledge or resources or diets or exercise? Would you say that it was a lack of resources? What was the number one for you?
I would say, I think we could all say, really, not just me, that I think we all know multiple diets and multiple exercise routines that we could be doing. So I don't think it's a lack of knowledge. So I would say no, I don't think it's a lack of knowledge.
Okay. What would you say, if you had to put that number one on there, what would you say is that biggest aspect?
Let's see. I would say the biggest hurdle is your mindset. I think for me, I had such an abusive mindset around food that I used it either to punish, or exercise was to punish myself because of what I ate. And I think that once you start thinking about, okay, I'm going to go into this diet, and if you do it because you hate yourself, I mean, that's going to have a whole different outlook and perspective on how you go about it, and how you view food and exercise. And so I would say that when you have an unhealthy mindset of why, which is often because we don't like the way we look now, so we need to get ourselves into gear. You know, it's going to start, I mean, on New Year's, people's biggest goal is to lose weight or start a diet, and it often fails, you know, a couple days in or a week later, because your mindset may not be where it needs to be in order to accomplish that goal and actually produce success. So I would say it's all about mindset. If you eat that piece of cake 2 days in and feel a bunch of guilt and shame, you might not be as motivated to keep going with it. If you think that you're too out of control, if that makes sense. So I would say a healthy mindset is the biggest obstacle.
Yeah. And I think even for the people here and the people that will hear this, Sami, and even those of you listening right now, you could probably give me a thumbs up, right? I mean, our mindset is going to direct everything that we do, and especially when it comes to food. There's such an emotional, has anybody, I mean, you give me a hands up, anybody had an emotional connection to food? Unhealthy or healthy, right? I mean, you're stressed, so you eat. You're stressed, so you don't eat. You're excited, so you eat. You're bored, so you eat, or you don't eat, right? So we have emotions that are so tied in our brain with food, and this is where we have to start. This is why so many diets fail. This is why so many people struggle with yo-yo dieting, where we've seen people on their 10th, 12th, 13th diet and just can't find the right one, when some of those diets are bad, right? Some of those diets are really good, but what we want to be able to do is being able to look at our mindset, look at our goal, be able to figure out why we're doing it. And it's not out of self-hatred. We can focus really on what the ultimate goal, and that's to be healthy, right? So if we're underweight, so Sami, your story, like being unhealthy and underweight and malnourished that way, or if we're malnourished in the sense of being overweight or obese, that the core root isn't a nutrition plan. It isn't, I need to exercise more. The core and the root underneath the tip of the iceberg is really going to be our mindset and the way that we address ourselves. And so that's what, Sami and I want to get in here today. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is really where it's going to get personal. So for each one of you, I think some people coming to a nutrition talk are like, just give me the bullet points of what I need to do. Give me the list of foods I need to eat. And yes, begrudgingly give me the list that I can't eat, right? So people want the do's and the don'ts, which we can do that. But if we don't pre-frame it with having the right goal, the right mindset, we will fail. Even if you make it 60 days, 90 days, 100 days, it's going to be unsustainable if we don't have the right mindset, the right motivation, the right heart. And so as we look at this, Sami, like, tell me a little bit more about like a healthy perspective. So you talked about maybe some of the unhealthy side. Like, what is how do we gain that? What do we need to focus on to have a healthy perspective or relationship with food?
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, guys, this is really what we want you to start to view food and exercise and weight loss in a more healthy perspective. What I told Dr. Jake the other day is I really had to remember perspective, that the lens that we look through is the path that we're going to move to. So what lens are you putting on, and the direction, that's the direction you're going to go. So I would say you really have to kind of process either why are you eating the way that you're eating, which I don't think a lot of us think about often. I know for me, when I was going through treatment, is why are we eating the foods that we're eating? Or do they just genuinely taste good? Or are we eating because we're bored? Or, you know, does eating this food bring up an emotional response? Like maybe that's something your mom used to make, or maybe that's something that your grandma made all the time. And just really analyzing the why, and that what is that perspective that you're looking through with that. And oftentimes our emotions can really play a key role into food. We're really blessed to have an abundance of food in America. So normally it's not just to fuel, it can be a lot of other things. So I would say once we process those emotions, and that can look a lot of different ways through journaling, or maybe you never talk to your spouse about what you're going through. Some of you probably need to talk to a pastor or a counselor just about what's going on. Or even you can talk to us here at the office. We would love to just point you even in the right direction. Or I can share if someone in your life is going through something similar that I'm going through. Maybe you're going through what I was going through. I'd love to just bring you to some resources that really helped me on this journey. But yeah, just to start gaining some freedom in that area, so that when you do go into that weight loss mindset, you are doing it with the best possible success that you can. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you guys, we see this mindset is going to set up. I think a lot of times we just say people either join this because they want to gain weight, lose weight, and that is the goal, right? And what we want to be able to do is dig one step further. Is why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to maybe gain muscle? Why do you want to maintain where you're at? And that is the question where we need to be able to, and it's the same thing with your spine, right? Somebody comes in with neck pain and headaches. I want to help you get rid of that, right? We, as a chiropractor, and just as, your doctor, I don't want you in pain either, but we can't just sit there at that surface level headache or neck pain, back pain, right? We have to go as why do you have it? So that we can actually get to the root and actually cause it. And it's the same thing with our mindset. So for you guys, what your goal is, and we're going to get into that deeper, and this is going to be an opportunity for you guys to kind of look in the mirror, right? And be able to figure out why I want to hit this goal, right? And it's going to be different for everybody. This is not a one size fits all. And asking for help, taking this step, looking at your emotions can be one of the hardest and most difficult steps, maybe most emotional steps that you have to take. And for some of you, you're in the midst of this battle right now. And this is, I feel you're not here by an accident, that this is a divine time for you to be able to hear this message, to confront this. But this step of courage could be the best thing for your future, for freedom, for health, and even for the next generations, your kids, your family. So we get really excited for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Dr. Jake will really share more healthy steps to really produce a healthy body later in the talk. We just really wanted to make sure that we just all go into it with a healthy mindset, to knowing that some people will, really want to lose those 15 pounds in 15 weeks. And then other people maybe want to start getting to that healthier mindset. So Dr. Jake will share those really a little bit later, but we really want to let you guys know that, like, out of that healthy mindset, and I have experienced it firsthand, the more healthy your mindset is, the greater the results will be as far as getting you to that weight that you want to be at, or you know, maybe it's just, I want to start replacing this thing with another thing. That mindset is going to be a huge help, especially as you listen to Dr. Jake's talk.
Absolutely. And I'll end with this because it happened today. So this is a little ad lib for today, but I was telling Sami, I was driving in the car this morning, and one of the Christian radio stations was talking about body positivity. So body positivity, maybe some of you guys have heard of this. You see it in some of the ads, and we talked about it, whether it's in lingerie or women's clothes is where you really see this, where there's this battle for, hey, you need to look a certain way, you need to be a size 2, like this is the ideal model. And then the flip side, which we're starting to swing in society, is that just be comfortable with wherever you're at. And I think the heart is really good because it said, just be comfortable in your own skin. Love who you are in your own skin, which I think the intention and the heart is really good. And our culture is trying to wade through this and what this really looks like. And Sami, you can maybe speak to this a little bit, but I think what burned my heart and got me fueled up even more for today is that I think what is actually at the root here is your identity, who you are as a person, as an identity. And whether you are a Christian or not, non-Christian, even if you're not a Christian, your identity is not found in how you look. It's not found in whether you have a missing arm or whether you've been burned from head to toe, right? What you look like, your appearance is not your identity. Whether people think you are attractive or sexy, or whether people like you because of what you look like, is not where your identity comes from. And we've gotten askew on that a little bit. And we want that, I think, is the ultimate root, that you, as whether you are a Christian, right, who believes that you have worth and value because you are a son and daughter of Christ and of the Lord, whether you are just, a non-Christian, but you have intrinsic value as a human being, regardless of what you look like. And this just got me fired up. And we see this, our culture struggling with these two. So I want to kind of launch off of this idea that your identity is found before we even look at what you weigh, at what you look like, whether you're underweight, overweight, or how healthy. Regardless, you could be the sickest person on the planet, and yet you have great and immense value. And when we come out of that, whether you believe that you are a son or a daughter of God, or whether you just believe that you are an amazing human being, or another faith background in that, you have intrinsic value, right? Regardless of what you look like. And that's what we need to be able to launch off today, and want to be able to encourage you guys in that. So we understand that this isn't going to be a short-term goal. This is a long-term goal. This is not an all or nothing. I think Sami kind of shared that with me too. I think she will maybe explain to you a little bit more the battle between guilt and freedom. Can you share that a little bit, Sami, with me and with these with our patients here?
Yeah, I think in diet culture, I think how they thrive is because they get you to feel guilty about eating a certain food. And then there's always going to be something better that you can have. And so I can only speak from my experience with dieting, of course, because I haven't gone through it. You guys have gone through it all. But in my own experience, when I was just trying to get down to the small size, not really caring what I was necessarily putting in my body for fuel wise, it's just what could I get away with and eating as little as possible. This is why diets fail oftentimes, because you'll eat something and then you'll feel extremely guilty about it because of what culture and society has told you is bad and wrong and terrible about, that's going to make you gain weight, XYZ. There's just a lot of different things. So hopefully through this talk, and hopefully through just learning about how you can maybe get into that mindset for yourself. I know that when I went through my journey, I had to switch my perspective from every time I ate, I felt super just a really high amount of guilt. I had to somehow switch that and look at food as it's not bad. It's just fuel for my body, because my body is a really well operating machine. And so I need to put good gas in it in order for it to produce, maybe that's going out to dinner with the family. I can put good fuel into my system still and still have fun. Then there's some freedom with that comes, that our bodies can handle a lot more than we think they do. And they're just fighting to keep us alive. So I think it's a long process to go from that guilty to freedom. That is a journey and process. It's not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen in a couple months. If that happens for you in a week or a couple months, like, more power to you. For me, it didn't. It took years in order to kind of switch my perspective, coming from a really abusive relationship with food and exercise. But it is possible. It's just finding those resources to help you move to that freedom. So hopefully you guys can just identify, what am I thinking about, and start thinking about those steps of how I can move from that guilt to freedom. And it can be baby steps. You know, you don't need to have a 15-step plan. It can just be step one. Just start at step one, start at little things, and we're happy to help you along the way, which is why we're having this talk today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sami. I really appreciate the courage and your willingness to share your story. And I hope and pray and know that it has already made impacts, and that even the people here and the people that will listen to this will benefit greatly from your story and the way that God has used your life as well too. So thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Jake.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to switch over maybe to the nitty gritty for the practical sides of these things here, and be able to get into some good tips. All right, so you guys can hopefully see my screen here. All right, you guys need to get up and stretch and do what you need to do, but can you guys see my slides here? Yep, all right, good. All right, good. Slides are here. I'm here. Perfect. So what I want to be able to get into for you guys is being able to walk through the practical side of this, and be able to go ahead and I think just outline. Now it's going to be different for everybody, right? So as we talk through this slideshow, your story, your path may be different. And so let me just get this to be able to, there we go. All right. So, but yes, when we look at this, you guys, and you guys, we talked and touched a little bit on this, but which person, when you look at this picture, right, which person is malnourished? Now, I think our mind right away goes to just maybe the person that is skinny there, maybe too skinny, right? So when we look at malnourishment, we need to broaden that, and because the definition is not having the right fuel, as Sami talked about, or the right nutrients to be at a healthy body weight. So whether you have excess body weight, or whether you have not enough and a minimal body weight, or an unhealthy amount, we know that both of these people are malnourished. And that's what we want to be able to get to, is what does it really look like to be nourished? What does it really look like to go forward and be able to see the results that we want? And so I will, can you guys, I'm just gonna pin me here. All right, perfect. There we go. So I think you guys can see me now up in the corner as well too. But this right here is going to be where we're going to launch from. And like we've talked about, all of you on this call today, anybody who's watching it in the future here, we know that our goal should be the same. Now, most of us may say we have different goals when it comes to our weights. Some people it's to lose weight, to gain weight, to maintain weight. Maybe some people are just like, hey, I want to avoid disease. Or I want to get stronger. I want to gain some weight. Maybe I want to get some lean muscle. I want to get faster, maybe as an athlete. Maybe it's increasing our performance and even our function. But the goal here at the end of the day, the root or the next level is going to be creating optimal health. Now, when we look at this optimal health, this is the reason it's so important, is because weight and your weight on the scale, as we just talked about, and this is part of the mindset, that if it's just solely focused on that, it will be a roller coaster. Now, we know that a weight or an ideal weight is one aspect of health, but that's just it, is one piece to the puzzle in the path or the journey for optimal health. It is one piece. When we see it as one piece to our optimal health, our ideal body weight, then we can actually take some really good steps, and we're not defeated if we gain a pound or we lose a pound. I have patients who weigh themselves every day and are completely defeated if they've gained 1 pound the next day. And that could just be water weight. It could be that they didn't pee yet, right? So we know that, and I don't disregard the efforts and the emotion there, but we want to keep the goal as optimal health, and that will help us on the long-term journey. We are all should be, right? We all should be achieving and looking to achieve optimal health, but there's many paths to what that looks like for you individually. So it's not a one size fits all. Now, as we look at this optimal health, what is that? It is improved function. And you guys, for those of you that are patients, we understand that, yeah, function begins in the brain. You get your head cut off, all function stops, right? We see this over and over again, even with nutrition. If you eat the best food in the world, but you get the nerve cut to your stomach, or you have pressure on the nerves going to your stomach and your digestive system, how well does it digest food? Not as well as it should, right? And obviously nobody's cutting nerves to your stomach, but we know that optimal function is going to be one of the best things, the most important things when it comes to our health. Now, increased performance, we want to be able to perform well, whether that is you being able to garden, you being able to pick up your child, you being able to be an Olympic athlete, right? No matter where we're at on that spectrum, we want to perform well in our daily activities in our lives. And then, yes, that third piece, we want to have a healthy appearance, because a healthy appearance is a sign or a body signal that we have been taking care of ourselves. But it can't be the only one, because we can manipulate our appearances, but not always be able to know that we're healthy. That's why all three of these have to go together. And our appearance, is the eye of the beholder, can be very skewed as well too. And so what we want to be able to do is make sure that's all part of the whole piece. So we want to look good, we want to feel great, we want to function better. That is going to be the ultimate optimal health. Now, when we look at unhealthy weight, it is merely, like we said, this symptom, and it is not the problem, and we need to focus on that, because the ultimate problem is a hormonal imbalance when it comes to weight. So now as we're looking at this, and we can kind of transfer into both sides, malnutrition on maybe an anorexia side or just overweight, obesity, we know at the bottom scientific and anatomy level that it is a chronic hormone imbalance. So it is not just your weight, it's not just eating less to lose weight. What we're going to address today is a chronic hormone imbalance and how we rebalance that, or how that this imbalance actually leads to us being in an unhealthy weight. And we can just look at adiposity, which is extra body fat. So you have more fat than your body needs. This is a symptom of chronic hormone imbalance. And then we also know that hormones and enzymes are going to regulate fat storage. So you have hormones in your body that are going to tell you to burn fat or to store fat, right? And we're going to get into what those situations look like and how we can learn our body and understand the methods that we need to be able to do and implement to be able to be at our healthiest. So that's what we're going to be able to cover. And we must regain this hormonal balance if we want to be able to accomplish our goals. Now, the perfect storm here. So for our country, as we look at 70% of Americans today are struggling with obesity or overweight, we know that the perfect storm here really is toxic or deficient food choices. Okay, so we can see the extremes there, but toxic or deficient are food quality, which if I asked a lot of people, like, hey, is food at its highest quality right now? And most people will say, well, no, right? And once again, as Sami said, food is not evil, right? Food is not the enemy here, right? We want to be able to set our mindset and understand that how we use these things, kind of like money. Money is not evil; it's how we use it that can be evil, or how it affects and influences us is how that goes. Now, we want to be able to talk about what healthy food looks like. Now, the second thing is going to be energy imbalance, right? How many, even now in the coronavirus season, have people have been more sedentary, working from home, sitting at a kitchen table more than they ever have, not driving or even getting out of their cars during the day? We see people sitting for 12 hours a day, more than that sometimes. And then on the flip side, excessive calorie intake. And we can see this even people have talked about it with coronavirus. I sit all day at my kitchen table and I am a hop, skip, and a jump away from my refrigerator and my pantry. And we see that excessive calorie intake, as well as that sedentary lifestyle, as another component to this perfect storm, the hormone storm that we're seeing that's leading to unhealthy body weight. Now, we can see the mental side of that too, right? So people, that guilt can seep in then a lot of times as people are maybe struggling with the mental game. As some of you just commented in here today, like my mind, right, and my heart, my emotions are gripped by this, but I do want to be healthy, right? I do desire to be healthy. And to add into that perfect storm, we have chronic stress, right? We have a lack of sleep or a chronic exhaustion. And we're seeing all of these come to a head in the last 2 months because the world is flipped upside down. And we're seeing more time than ever that this is a crucial piece to look at today. So this is the perfect storm that we have to calm, that we have to work through and to be able to address. Now, as we look at this, what we wanted to go through today is steps to 15 weeks healthier. Now, 15 pounds healthier is the title of the talk. So majority of America has a goal of wanting to lose weight, but it may not be. Maybe it's gaining 7 pounds of muscle and losing some fat. Maybe it is gaining 15 pounds if that's your goal. So once again, don't get caught up on the number there, but in 15 weeks. Now, we didn't say 10 days, 20 days, 30 days. There is a time limit on it because everybody likes to see the next checkpoint. But the idea is that this is a lifestyle that we want to be able to do. Now, the steps to be healthier 15 weeks from now are simple, not easy, but they're simple. And that's what we want to be able to get to. Now, these 4 right here, your mind, and we talked about this a lot with Sami, because we felt if you miss this one, if you miss the mindset, if you miss this goal setting and the proper focus and lens, the rest of them don't matter. The rest of them will fail and we won't see the results that we want to see. And we don't want that for you. So once again, journaling, talking to someone, setting your goals, dealing with your emotions, being motivated by love for yourself and others so that you can be healthy to serve those around you. This has to be that motivation, that your identity is not anywhere near your weight or what numbers on that scale. So that right there has to be set. Now, the next one is going to be a healthy nutrition plan. And we're going to cover this today in detail. What is quality food, to the 80-20 rule. And we're going to get into that a little bit more, but this nutrition plan is, it's not about perfection. And the 80-20 rule, what that comes down to is that 80% of the time we should be eating healthy and the 20% freedom that we should have. Now, some of you may, depending on your situation, if somebody's dealing with cancer, then hey, let's do 90-10 or let's do 100-0, right? So we want to be able to be at our best. Now, for a lot of people, the sweet spot is at 80-20, that 80% of the time you're eating healthy and 20% you have freedom in those meals and the food that you're eating. And this can look a couple different ways. If you're eating 3 meals a day, the 20% would mean that one whole day, you could eat whatever you'd like. Pick a day. Saturdays, you want to eat and just go crazy. You can eat whatever you'd like on that day, guilt-free, knowing that the rest of the week, the other 6 days, you're going to be diligent and disciplined on what you're eating. And that gives you a little freedom and slack and sanity. Now, you can do it the other way too, is that you can take 4 meals that week and eat whatever you'd like with freedom off of maybe a nutrition plan. So this is why so many nutrition plans fail, because it is hardcore restriction. Don't eat that, don't eat that, don't eat that, don't eat that. And we get exhausted and worn down mentally. So this can be a great rule for people to succeed. Not in every situation, but this is a fantastic rule for people to give some leeway to live and understand that we're not just holding on tight for 30 days so that I can go ahead and eat the normal crappy sugar and the bad, unhealthy mindset or even nutrition plans that we're doing. And so that 80-20 rule is allowing people to understand that this is a long-term goal, that I need to make a nutrition change for a lifetime. And that's what we want to help you do. And with a nutrition plan, we want accountability, right? You don't have accountability, it's not going to work. We see that in every aspect of life. And then also a food and shopping plan. We want to be able to make what food should you buy, what are better options, and then how to shop for those. The third aspect that we're looking at is healthy exercise, right? Once again, we don't want this to something that's miserable, okay? Now, I don't always love the time I'm working out, right? It's hard work and I'm sweating and working hard. It can be painful sometimes in a good way, but we have to find something that we like, right? Some people are like, I have to go run for 2 hours to be able to burn off these calories. That is an unhealthy way of functioning and working. Find something, whether you like walking, biking, swimming, canoeing, kayaking, do something active. If it's CrossFit, great, right? Do the things that you love to do. We have people in our parking lot that do, they have big yoga balls and they're actually doing drums and dancing, exercise, fitness. Fantastic, right? That's what they love to do. I would not be good at that. My rhythm is off. But the point being is do something that you love to do, and the success will be much more long-term. Now, 30 plus minutes is going to be a good goal to shoot for. And then 3 to 5 times a week, right? It's not every day, and it's not 5 hours long every day, right? This is something that we want it to be manageable and something that you enjoy for the most part. Now, with the last thing that we're going to talk about is reducing stress, healthy sleep. Once again, full circle here. Journaling is going to help your stress. Talking to somebody is going to help your stress. Setting healthy goals, motivated out of love, is going to reduce the stress and an unhealthy mindset. So once again, this is a full circle. And this is something we do and we reassess over and over again. And we go through this like living and breathing document here and list of steps. Now, I want to cover today, okay? And some of you guys are still with me. Give me a thumbs up here. I see that, yeah, there's 15 of you with me here. So that's great. I'm glad you're here today. But these are some of the lies. Maybe you guys have heard some of these lies, but when it comes to dieting, and we want to get away from this word dieting. Dieting is already a negative connotation and doesn't set people up for success. We want to be a fuel or a food nutrition plan, right? A lifestyle nutrition habits, right? That's what we want to change it to, not just dieting, because that is just around restriction. We want to be able to have good nutrition plans. And now, one, weight problems. This is a lie that a lot of people hear. Weight problems run in my family. Right? And we're going to get into that a little bit more, right? But this is a lie. Have you heard it, right? Number 2, just eat less and you will lose weight. Okay. Now, Sami maybe shared some of this with her story as well too. But a lot of people feel this, that, hey, if I just eat less, I'll lose weight. And that can be a slippery slope. Now, the third line that we see for a lot of people is I'll just work it off at the gym. Okay. I work out so that I can eat whatever, okay? And that's a lie that can hurt a lot of people in their long-term nutrition goals. Calories are calories, right? Calories in, calories out, does not matter. Calorie is a calorie. Now, in certain situations and where somebody's struggling with anorexia, we have to understand that like a calorie isn't necessarily evil, but the goal then is to get people to understand that nutrition and nutrient-dense food and nutrient-dense calories can be more helpful to be able to help you achieve your goals. And then the 5th goal is going to be sleep has nothing to do with it. A lot of people are like, it doesn't matter what I sleep, right? I just work hard and eat well. But sleep is one of the forgotten things that a lot of people forget about when talking about losing weight or gaining weight or being at a healthy weight. Okay. Now, the number 1 lie that we hear, weight problems run in my family. I wanted to look at this little triangle or this pyramid and these circles here. Now, yes, we all have genes and they do play a role. Environment plays another role and lifestyle plays another role. Now, we can't look at these individually. It's not all genes. It's not like, hey, my mom is obese and so therefore I'm going to be automatically obese. We know that's not true. And so what it comes down to is that our genes, our environment, and our lifestyle all come together, and you can see the hole in the center there, that sweet spot in the center is where we need to live, that we understand that our genes do play a role, that we may be bent one way or the other. We have body types, right? And different people have different body types, but we can all get to our own healthy and ideal weight. We have to look at maybe how we're built as structure for our genes, and then also our environment and our lifestyle. Now, we can't control our genes, but we can control the environment and lifestyle that we live in. Now, this is why in the beginning, when I said that if 2 parents are obese, that the child has an 80% chance of also being obese. This is a big stat. This is huge. This is something that we get passionate about. Now, this isn't a shame on any of the parents. Do not hear me wrong on this, but this goes to show that our environment, what we learn, the habits that we learn, the learned behavior does impact us. So yes, is there a gene component? Yes. Is there an environment component? And yes, is it lifestyle? So we get choice on our environment and our lifestyle. And so I want to focus on that to be able to keep us in that bullseye in that center. But once again, the lie that a lot of people believe is, doesn't matter what I do. I've tried 1,000 things. It's just my body. It's just that. But we don't accept that because of research, but also because God designed your body to be healthy. He designed your body to function well. That is not a broken down piece of junk, right? He curates masterpieces. Now, there are things that get in the way. There are problems that can happen. And we will not be ever in a perfect body this side of heaven, but we know that we can really focus on a lot of things to improve and take good stewardship of our bodies. Once again, this is going to be something that we want to put together and not just isolate one of these things. And we can see this. So just logically looking at this, if it was our genes and solely up to our genes, we can just look at the obesity statistics here from 1990 to even 2015 or even now, right? So 30 years worth, we can see the change. The blue is where there's a much less percentage of obesity in our nation. And we see 1999, we're increasing. 2008, we're increasing more. 2015, which is where this statistic ends off, we are continuing to increase. So just in a short, even here, we're looking at 25 years worth, we have an exponential increase in the obesity in our country. Now, do genes change that fast? No. Right? So we know that statistics and science and research knows that and shows that, anatomy knows that. So what isn't changing, right? What is changing is your environment and your lifestyle. The way we eat, the way we think, the way that we move. These are all going to be the things that are changing in our culture, in our mindset, right? That we need to change. Our relationship with each other, relationship with food, and the strategies and choices are what we have to change. Right? Now, once again, body types are all different. Some people will say, hey, my body type is, I'm just big boned like my mom or my dad or whatnot. And yes, there are different body types. I was a wrestler growing up and I loved wrestling. It's my favorite sport. And I was the tall, lengthy kid. Okay. If I didn't work out, I lost weight and got scrawny. Okay. So talk about bad mindset lies that I believe from people. I was the scrawny kid. I was the tall, gangly kid. Right. Those are unhealthy things that I've had to work through as far as mindset, but my body type is that, right? And we can get into mesomorph, ectomorph, and those kind of technical terms, but that is my body type. Now, some people, right, have in wrestling world, they're the short, squatty, stout ones, right? They can still have good, healthy body weight, but just look very different from me. So once again, your body can have different shapes, different sizes, right? But there is a healthy for you. And that's what we want to be able to help get across today. Now, the next lie that we see and talked about a lot is going to be just eat less, you'll lose weight. And this restriction only gets people so far. This is where a lot of people fails because it fails in the sense that people get worn out just by not doing this. Now, the reason it's so hard is because your body needs food. This isn't like alcohol, right? Where alcohol is just one example. You can enjoy alcohol, but your body doesn't need it to survive. Food, we have to eat. And so your body is going to give you signals on whether or not you have eaten enough or not. And that is part of the hormone storm that you're here. And food deprivation, once again, it's unsustainable. It's like breathing. We have to have food. There's metabolism changes if we deprive ourselves. You can think about it in a very extreme case, right? People that were in the Jewish concentration camps, right? The severe malnutrition in that way. And there was metabolism change. The body went into survival mode, not healthy, but survival mode, right? And even short-term torture, and people see this, I'm willing to torture myself. And sometimes that's the mindset of hatred or not liking themselves or other people don't like how you look. And so the motivation of the mindset can be off with that food deprivation. And so that right there is why so many people get stuck in the yo-yo dieting. That's why so many times we can see people try a diet, fail, try a diet, burn out, try a diet, get the results, but then stop and gain it all back. And so this is why food deprivation fails time and time again. Now, the third lie that we look at here is going to be calories are calories. People will say this all the time, and there is a time and place to be able to talk. Yes, if you eat 5,000 calories of carrots and you want to lose weight, you're going to have a hard time losing weight. Okay, but the lie sometimes that it doesn't matter. I can eat 2,000 calories today, and I can eat it all in fried donuts, and I will be healthy. Now, you may not gain or lose weight because you ate the right calories, but we're seeing a hormonal effect that will cause a shift in your hormones because there's toxic food or a depletion, a malnutrition of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. And so that's why this perfect storm, those toxic food choices are really important on what we choose to put in our bodies. Now, the third thing that we see there is going to be the sedentary lifestyle and then the social stress. This is the perfect storm that we keep talking about. Now, as regards to food, okay, there are a lot of plans out there. There are probably thousands of different options out there. Not all of them are bad, not all of them are wrong, and not all of them are for everybody. But we want to start getting, what are the principles that we should live by? What's the ballpark we should be playing in? And overall, if we can really sum it up here, some of those things are going to be this depiction here of the wild hunter-gatherer versus industrialized modern human. And we can see these things that on the wild hunter-gatherer, this is the way our genetics were set up thousands of years ago. They were set up for high carbohydrates in the sense of vegetables, right? So this is carbohydrate. You get carbohydrates, you get carbs from vegetables. That's a very good source of carbohydrates. With moderate fat and then high protein, nuts and seeds and different meats as well too. Those are going to be some of the things that we need to function and stay healthy. Now, minimal, right, is refined foods, dairy, and refined sugar. Now, some people will say you can never have those things, and depending on your goal, that can be sometimes good. But for sanity, it's being able to have healthy, good dairy, right? One dairy that is full fat, that we have refined foods to a minimum, and then minimal refined sugar. Now, in our culture today, and you see this, and you can see this on every commercial, all the fast food commercials, are even just the commercials on what we're selling at grocery stores today, but a lot of it is processed. If you look on the industrialized red side here, the high refined carbohydrates, the quick sugars, the quick grains, pastas, breads that are highly processed, they easily digest in our body and ultimately turn into more sugar, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. Now, low fat, the low fat craze that you've heard, even low protein, these are all challenges. Low quality protein are going to be challenges that lead us to obesity, overweight, and unhealthy weights. Even the excess sugar that we're eating is going to lead to an unhealthy hormone system and unhealthy body weight. And so that is undisputed in a lot of the research today, and we want to be able to launch off of that. Now, once again, poor quality foods fail us because the food isn't supplying us with the right nutrients. We're deficient. We're either getting not enough of the right nutrients, or we're getting toxic chemicals from some of the processed foods that we're getting. But also these unbalanced choices are leading to unbalance in our blood sugar. Okay, and that's what we're going to get into a little bit here. Okay, this hormonal change, okay, is impacting us in two major hormones. One is our insulin, which you guys hear about all the time, and you usually hear about that located with diabetes, right? So our blood sugar needs to be at a certain level. Now, when we have too much sugar in our body, and we have an overload of that, there's too much blood, too much sugar going through our blood. And so insulin, what that insulin hormone coming from our pancreas is doing is telling the body, store. I don't have room for this. This can't be in your blood. Otherwise your blood's going to turn into a honey stick, right? We need it to be flowing. So it tells us store. Where it stores, fat cells. Okay. So what we know is that when we are seeing this hormonal shift happen, we're seeing blood sugar rise and fat storage rising as well. Same thing happens in cortisol. So when we are stressed, stress hormone like adrenaline, cortisol, that stress hormone can be a really good thing. But if you're, when we're stressed long periods of time, the body signals, hey, you're in survival mode. You need to store as much fat so that when we go through this survival season, we can actually keep ourselves alive. And so stress and cortisol will increase the amount of fat storage in the fat cells that grow in your body. Right? Now, as we look at, see if this goes forward. There we go. Okay. So insulin, once again, is the fat storage hormone. And this, I just went through this with you guys, but sugars and refined carbohydrates, those fast, quick carbs, if you were to drink some honey, right, it's pretty instant that gets to your bloodstream. Even low fat dairy, because once again, dairy, when they take out the fat to be low fat, it doesn't taste very good. So what do they add into it? If you look into all your dairy products, there's either some sugar or some different ingredients, but usually sugar that's going to try to make that taste better again. So that's why low-fat dairy can be a less desirable or a less healthy option than the full-fat dairy, the organic grass-fed dairy as well too. Now, the other piece to that, elevated insulin levels. If we have a lot of blood sugar going in because we've eaten a lot, we've had a lot of the extra sugar calories there, and we're not exercising, we're not burning off that, we are going to store it some more. So you can see why this is such a negative perfect storm here, is that I'm eating way too much sugar that my body doesn't need. So it's in my bloodstream, so it's storing it and I'm not burning it off. And so then we have a double whammy in regards to how we are storing. And that's why we're seeing this pandemic of obesity throughout our country and our world as well too, is just the lifestyle and environment choices that we're making. Now, we can see this with type 2 diabetes, right? Type 2 diabetes, you guys probably know somebody that has this or even pre-diabetic. This type 2 diabetes, this is almost 30 million Americans. 9% of the population have diabetes, and it's a lot more that have pre-diabetes. And even insulin resistant, so 86 million people have that pre-diabetes right there. So this is a huge number. This is the 7th leading cause of death here in the United States. It's causing at least, right, in parts, 250,000, so 250,000 deaths in 2015. That number continues to rise. It's 250,000 people. That is a lot of loved ones and family members that are dying from type 2 diabetes. Right? Now, that is why this is so important to reverse these habits and to be able to make your health the goal, not just to lose weight, but your health, because we see being overweight is not just about the scale, it's about how that is affecting your body. Right? Now, once again, your identity is not lost. Even if you were the sickest person on the planet, your identity and your value is still intact. But we have been given a body to steward well so that we can love and serve other people with that body. And that's what we want to help you guys do. And for those of you out there, you guys may know someone who struggles with diabetes. And a lot of people feel like this is a death sentence or this is a lifelong sentence, right? And I know it can be a very challenging topic, but we know that this can be reversible. In as little as 2 weeks, people can reverse their diabetes and type 2 diabetes. And so we want to take the right steps, and we want to help people, once again, get the right mindset, the right vision, the right goal, and the right steps to be able to do this. People can turn their diabetes around, their type 2, and be able to affect their hormones and their blood sugars. And we can see this, right? These steps with diabetes, they happen gradually. We know that it's rising. We know that as science continues to show a healthy diet, regular physical activity, maintaining normal body weight, and avoiding tobacco can prevent and delay the onset of type 2 diabetes, right? We know there are a lot of things out there that we can be doing, and the body does produce too little insulin, is unable to respond to the overload of that sugar. Now, once again, as we talked about, all the genetic factors that come into play, but also we want to focus, the big thing we want to focus on that lifestyle and the environment that we're in, okay? Now, as we talk about this, don't get me wrong, this is hard. When we talk about sugar, just even the topic of sugar. Sugar has a bondage on us. There is something that happens in our brain. We know this from PET scans and from different scans of the brain, that it elicits the pleasure center in our brain. And that is why it's really addictive. Okay. And alcoholics know this, right? That same addictive thing happens when we are eating sugar sometimes. We know that different people have experienced even a cocaine addiction, and we can see the same part in the brain light up on these scans because we know how much that this sugar can be an addictive process. Now, we can also see our environments, our relationships, and different things. If we don't have it in the house, it's going to be a lot harder to do it. And once again, it's a slippery slope in the 80-20 rule. So if we look at just these two things, some people need to start in the beginning with cold turkey. Same thing with drinking sometimes. Some people are like, oh, I'm fine as an alcoholic recovering. I can go to the bar and just have one, or I can go to the bar and just drink water. That is a slippery slope. If you don't have the right mindset yet, you haven't had the right help yet to get yourself straight mentally and emotionally to be able to address that temptation. So that's why 80-20 rule may not be the best chance for some people in the beginning. Now, some people need the 80-20 so that they can keep their sanity throughout that. Some people do better with just cutting sugar out completely for 10 days and then being able to kind of break that hormonal cycle, that connection in the brain, so that they can have a better option and a better chance at succeeding long term. Once again, this path for you may be different than somebody else, but figuring out what will be better, cutting out sugar altogether for a short period of time or doing the 80-20 rule. And that's something for you to decide, okay? Now, the top 7 dieting pitfalls that we see with a lot of people is that people are drinking way too many of their calories. The low fat dairy, because a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't want the fat, okay? But we're replacing it with sugar and it's not helping us, right? And then we see in our culture, one of the other pitfalls is grainitarians. This is kind of a spoof term, but it's people that are eating the wheats, the pastas, the white bread. If you look at your meal on the plate, it's all like white and it's gray. And that's something that can be a big factor to an American diet that is leading to a lot of these different health issues. Now, snacking, I snack, okay? My wife is the queen of snacking, Dr. Julie, but it is a matter of picking the right snacks, and we don't always do that perfectly, but having healthy snacks around can really help you succeed when you are looking at a good nutrition plan. Once again, this dieting is the wrong word, and I want to put quotations around that. We're not dieting, we're changing our lifestyle nutrition habits, okay? Now, post-exercise binging, once again, I exercise so I can eat whatever I want. These things are not going to help you achieve your goal long-term. You're working so hard and yet kind of sabotaging yourself in that way. And we want to be able to help people stop that as much as possible. Now, skipping meals is another big one. And this is kind of the restriction. Like, well, if I just skip a meal here and there, or if I skip my breakfast every day, or if I skip my dinner every day, I will lose weight because I'm eating less. And what we see long-term is your body goes into survival mode and saying, hey, I'm not getting enough. So it's going to store and it's going to be an unhealthy pattern for you. So we want to stop that. And then the all or nothing and the guilt, as Sami had talked about. We've gone through that already too. We can't do these things out of guilt. It cannot be an all or nothing that if I struggle, and that's why New Year's resolutions usually last like 3 days because somebody slips up and has some sugar or a piece of cake or something, or an alcohol, and they say, well, whatever, right, next year, okay? But if we can change that mindset, it's not about perfection. If you can do 6 perfect days and 1 7-day, right? Or you can do 20 great meals and then have 1 cheat meal or 1 meal that you mess up, like that is okay because the majority of them is pushing you in that direction. The overwhelming little habits are going to push you in the right direction. So do you have more good habits or more bad habits? And that is the teeter-totter that we have to win. So that is what we want to be able to help people with. Now, for all of you here, what we're going to send to you is the Powerful Nutrition Plan PDF. All right, so if you're interested and you want it, and we can go ahead and we can send these to all of you who are on right now, but we're going to send this Powerful Nutrition Plan, which is going to talk about a mindset goal. And what I want you to do is print it off, okay? One, think about your mindset, think about your goal, but print it off. I want you to pick the top foods from each category. There are hundreds of foods in each of these categories, whether it is your vegetables, whether it is your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates. We want to pick foods that you like and enjoy, and then go shopping for those foods. Experiment with foods if you want, but shopping, having them in the house is going to be that. You got to plan, right? Follow a plan, because if you don't plan, you will fail, right? Failing the plan is planning to fail. So we have to have that plan and those action steps, and then accountability. Now, we are here. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your whole family doing it together at home. But we are going to keep you accountable in these 15 weeks to be able to help you through this process. Now, and then once we get through that, we're resetting. Okay. Once the 15 weeks is done, or once 1 week is done, or 30 days, or 60 days, or 90 days, or even a year, we have to reassess and be able to keep moving forward. There is no end to healthy eating. This is a requirement for us to be healthy. Now, shifting gears, big line number 4. And what people always say is I'll work it off in the gym, okay? And maybe I went through that a little bit, but calories in, calories out, that's a lot of people talk about that hormonal impact. And what we look at here, and just even some research, is that exercise, and this is literature from Mayo Clinic actually, they say exercise is critical in achieving optimal health, correcting metabolic degeneration and degenerate. Like this right here, the quote was, our ancestors exerted themselves daily. So our genome, our genes as humans, they exerted themselves daily to secure their food, their water, and their protection. And although modern technology has made physical exertion optional, we don't have to work out. None of us have to work out or move. It is still important to exercise as though our survival depended on it. And in a different way as it still does. So our survival depends on movement and staying healthy. And that's what we want to help people be able to launch forward. And that's this right here is why exercise is so important in the grand scheme as one piece to the puzzle in regards to your health. So once again, rebalancing your hormones with exercise, we have to exert ourselves. We have to increase our breathing rate and our sweating, getting our heart rate going. We need to be panting. Now, once again, 30 plus minutes a time and exercise is going to be great. If you can do it every day, that's awesome. But give yourself the freedom and leeway 3 to 5 days per week. This is usually a realistic time for people, even if it's, once again, do something you want, even if it's walking. 30 minutes of walking per day or 3 to 5 times a week is going to be a phenomenal change because you're moving your body. You are helping your body in so many ways, right? So do what moves you, do what you love, but pick something and do it. Be disciplined with that. Get your family in on that as well too. So last thing that we want to cover today is going to be social stress. Now, once again, that cortisol and that stress that we talked about, okay? When we are stressed, our body hold on to as much fat as possible because it's trying to save you long-term in case we go through a survival period. And two pieces to this are going to be chronic physical, psychological stress. Think about coronavirus. Think about, think about even the last week here on the rioting across the country. Psychological stress is huge. Right? It's high. And that's one piece to the puzzle when it comes to cortisol. And then the second piece is not sleeping. Now, I know a lot of people that are super stressed right now and are not sleeping, and this is not producing a healthy environment for them. And now, once again, the last slide that we're going to talk about is sleep's got nothing to do with it in regards to our weight. A lot of people will say that, well, like, what does sleep have to do with me losing weight? And we see this all the time with bodybuilders. If they want to build muscle, they have to sleep. They have to, okay? If you want to lose weight, you have to sleep because your body regenerates, rebuilds, and heals at night. And that's what we want to be able to help people do. So once again, when people are sleep deprived, we have unnatural cycles and cortisol. And what happens is leptin, one of the hormones in your body goes up, it increases your appetite. Ghrelin goes up, so it increases your appetite. So two hormones are increasing your appetite when you are sleep deprived. Your cortisol goes up, so you crave sugar and carbs. So those are three things that are producing an unhealthy, right, long-term motivations when it comes to eating, right? Our appetite's increasing, all we desire then is sugar and carbs. And then insulin is up. And so people, when we're stressed or sleep deprived, our insulin's up, so we're storing these things. So we crave them, we're eating them, and we're storing them. And this doesn't allow for us to have normal rhythms and cycle. And that's why sleep is such an important piece to us getting to a healthy, normal body weight. Right? So best practices when it comes to sleep, you guys probably heard me say this, but use their circadian rhythm as a guide. So we should be going to bed at a decent hour when the sun is going down, waking up when the sun's coming up, and in general, 7 to 9 hours. And then it should be dark, it should be quiet, it should be cool, shutting off our electronics at night. And then also doing this as a whole, right? Getting the family to do this well, kids, family, is getting a good sleep culture. It is not a badge of honor to be sleeping on 4 hours of sleep, okay? And functioning off of that. It's not a badge of honor to be doing that. We want to be able to change that. Okay? Now, last slide here. I thank you guys for making it this far. I thank you guys for tuning in, and maybe you guys are tuning in later tonight or even this weekend. Maybe you're sharing this with people. But once again, the steps to 15 weeks healthier. We are going to be sending you a plan, a nutrition plan, a powerful nutrition plan for you. It's going to give you a good framework. But first things first, set your mind. Figure out what is your healthy mindset, what's your healthy goal, motivation, and process anything that you need to process. This may be the hardest step for all of us, but it is the most important step. Next one is that healthy nutrition plan, and we talked about that, healthy exercise, and then reducing stress. So your mind, your nutrition plan, your healthy exercise, and reducing your stress. These are simple, not easy, but simple steps that we need to be taking to be able to help ourselves be at our healthiest when it comes to an ideal body weight. So thank you guys for being on tonight. If you have questions, you can go ahead and comment. You can go ahead and send us an email. You can give us a call here at the office, message us on Facebook. But we want to help you in any way possible, and we're going to do that over the next 15 weeks. So we're really excited that you guys joined us today, and really excited to take this next step to be able to help improve your health in this aspect. Have a blessed day.
What's going on now?